Long Island Audits says he violated protection order in name of journalism. Was surprised at arrest when he was trespassed from the home of protection order holder and continued to argue with the man. Says the Connecticut State Police will pay for their role in questionable arrest. Floyd Wallace returns to streaming with news that he's leaving the country again by the end of the month. And it has nothing to do with him possibly being a father next month with the birth of his first child. Calling Dr. DNA. Will Wallace's quest for booty in Colombia get in the way of being a good dad? Christopher, Denver Metro Audits Cordova, and that Randall S, the Unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, respond to Frauditor Mania and the exposer's claims with a live stream of their own. Dr. Dave replies to action taken against him, and more subpoenas and madness, just madness, I say. Plus, Chille DeCastro gets boring at the end of the week. Is there any hope for your favorite diminutive YouTuber? I'm your humble newsreader, Pants. You're a 5-pound bottle of petroleum jelly. I'm going to moisten the world's biggest indoor slip and slide with your slippery, slidey goodness as you ease on down the road to auditing insanity. With a look of defiance in his eye, Sean Paul, Long Island Audit Reyes, live-streamed on Saturday to recount his harrowing experience Friday afternoon after he was trespassed and arrested after apparently violating a protective order and showing up at the house of Connecticut State Trooper Brian Fahey. Reyes disclosed to his fans that his motivation for the visit to Officer Fahey's house was that he received a tip-off from one of Fahey's co-workers that Fahey was illegally abusing the overtime system at work. According to Reyes, Fahey is employed as a pistol permit officer and makes $130,000 a year in base salary, but has applied for $80,000 in overtime. Fahey is also being sued by Reyes in federal court in an active civil rights lawsuit. Reyes has been profiting from the airing of anti-Fahey videos on his channel. In Saturday night's live stream, Reyes would admit that Fahey has an active protective order against him that would prevent Reyes from filing a complaint against Fahey at any Connecticut State Police Department. Reyes said he was acting as any journalist would when he hired a cameraman and drove his $165,000 electronic billboard truck to Fahey's house to ask him questions about Fahey's alleged corruption. He was shocked, with billboard truck parked displaying anti-Fahey material in view of Fahey's house, that the state trooper did not accommodate his request for answers when he and his cameraman presented themselves for an ambush-style interview. According to Reyes's account, Fahey told Reyes to leave, Reyes slowly complied, and as tension escalated, Fahey pulled his gun out. The men began screaming at each other, and Reyes alleges that Fahey spit directly into his face during the incident. As the police arrived, the men were separated, and Reyes claimed that the officers on the scene were helpful, but refused to arrest Fahey for assault, as Fahey did not physically injure Reyes. When Reyes inquired about the consequences of spitting in the face of an officer, he was apparently told he would be a different category as it would involve assault on a state trooper, and he would be arrested. Again enraged, Reyes wanted to know why Fahey was not arrested for his actions and brandishing a weapon. He was instructed that both Fahey and Reyes could be arrested for breaching the peace. When Reyes demanded to be arrested, he and his cameraman were arrested at the scene. Reyes was initially told that his bond would be $10,000, but he'd only have to put up $700, and his cameraman would be released on an appearance bond. This later ballooned to $75,000 for Reyes and $50,000 for his camera crew, as the charges involved an active state trooper. A bondsman later bonded out both men, and they returned to Long Island late Friday night, with both facing charges of breach of peace, criminal trespass, and voyeurism. Reyes swore that he would fight the charges and hold the corrupt Fahey accountable, even if it means moving to Connecticut. Reyes immediately set up a new GoFundMe campaign for his fans to donate to his legal defense. The campaign made $111 in donations for Sunday. His generic Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption GoFundMe campaign took the crowdsourcing victory for the day with $286 in new donations. No other campaigns received donations for Sunday's results. Reyes's live stream has been seen 147,000 times, had over 6,000 concurrent viewers at peak, took in $140 in Super Chat donations, and received 4,800 likes as of press time. The YouTuber has promised to release his full footage of the incident on Sunday. Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova and that Randall S, the Unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, live streamed Saturday afternoon in response to Friday evening's live stream by Frauditor Mania and 1A Audits Exposé's channel owner, a man simply known as the Exposer. Starting the broadcast with the statement that everything they said was wrong, almost, Cordova wasted no time in introducing Newman and going into a vigorous response to the legal claims made by Frauditor Mania and the Exposer. Playing the Frauditor Mania video that opened Friday night's live stream, Newman was quick to point out that Frauditor Mania's declaration that nothing had changed and that there were no actual ramifications from his and Cordova's lawsuits and activities was false. Newman pointed out that over 2,000 YouTube videos had been taken down from various YouTubers in response to the copyright infringement claims, filed lawsuits, and other legal actions. He also pointed out that the Exposer removed his entire YouTube channel in response to their actions, so it was hard to say that nothing had changed. Addressing the recent actions by YouTube to restore videos on fair use grounds, Newman said that YouTube was required to restore the content when a content creator filed a valid counterclaim to an initial DMCA claim, and when a lawsuit was not filed within 14 days of the claim. Newman reminded his audience that YouTube's actions were not final and just part of the DMCA process. He said that the real determination would come at trial, as only an actual federal court's opinion mattered in the outcome of the pending DMCA claims. The Thailand-based attorney also reminded the informer that while if he had indeed registered his YouTube channel through a corporation, as claimed on the Friday night livestream, the corporation could shelter his information when a lawsuit was filed. However, the informer was still personally liable for copyright infringement, and that his name could be found through the discovery process. Both Newman and Cordova addressed claims by YouTube commenters that they were only out to dox members of the anti-auditing community by filing lawsuits against creators. Newman informed his audience that any information he received would be held in confidence, and that he would only reveal the name and general location of the targets of recent subpoenas to Cordova or his other clients when he received information specific to their cases. Addressing the accusation that they somehow doxed Frauditor Troll by revealing the name and address Frauditor Troll used in his YouTuber counterclaim, again, the pair reminded their audience that the address listed by the popular YouTuber turned out to be false. They also doubted the veracity of the name provided by Frauditor Troll in the same counterclaim. Newman also addressed Cordova's direct letter to both the exposer and Dr. Dave, another recent target of DMCA complaints. As both men had indicated that they had active attorneys, Newman was prevented from directly contacting either man, as legally he could only contact their attorneys in regards to pending litigation or settlement talks. Cordova added that his $30,000 demand to Dr. Dave in his second settlement letter was made on the spot and was intended to scare the YouTuber into submission. Dr. Dave has since mocked Cordova for the demand, saying that he could not prove that he made that much revenue from material featuring Cordova's videos. In a video released soon after Newman and Cordova's livestream, Dr. Dave would again mock Newman and Cordova, as he said that he received notice that YouTube deemed that 10 of his videos were indeed fair use and would be restored to the platform. He laughed at Cordova's efforts to appeal Dr. Dave's counterclaims, as Cordova repeatedly fumbled in his protest of YouTube's assessment of the videos. He reminded Cordova and attorney Newman that YouTube was a private business and YouTube alone would determine what could appear on the platform. Dr. Dave was at the center of a 512H filing made by Newman on behalf of Cordova, filing as the pair are seeking to subpoena Google/YouTube for the information behind the ownership of Dr. Dave's main channel. In a similar move, Newman has filed for an ex parte application for leave to serve a third-party subpoena on Google/YouTube in Cordova's ongoing lawsuit against Frauditor Troll. Newman is using a 512G claim to seek the same sort of information from YouTube, as it is believed that Frauditor Troll provided a false name and address in filing his DMCA counterclaims. Frauditor Troll has yet to make a public statement in response to the new developments in the lawsuit against him. Fans of Passport Bro and beloved YouTuber Floyd Wallace were shocked as the Nebraska native ended his months-long absence from live streaming with an explosive announcement that he may become a father in August and that he was leaving the country by the end of the month. Wallace said that he had met someone late last year who had a boyfriend, but apparently agreed to have sex with the former First Amendment auditor. Because the woman had a boyfriend at the time of the encounter, he said that he doubted that the baby was his and that he wanted a DNA test. While he admitted that the woman said that her boyfriend had been out of the picture for some time, Wallace refused to embrace fatherhood until the woman took a paternity test to prove that he was the father of her baby. The YouTuber complained that the woman suspiciously did not want him to be at the birth of the baby in August for religious reasons. He went on to rate her a 6.5 or 7 out of 10 in physical beauty, and that he'd be proud to have her as a partner. However, her personality was trash and would prevent him from a long-term relationship. Wallace showed no concern for the baby, who he said was a boy, and indicated that he would play no role in the baby's life unless presented with confirmation that he fathered the child. Even then, Wallace said that he never wanted children with an American woman, and had previously talked about his plans to avoid palimony by leaving the country should he get a woman pregnant while outside the United States. He then announced that he would be leaving the country in mid-July or early August, as he was planning on buying a one-way ticket to Colombia. Once in the country, Wallace said that he would be filing to extend his visa for a full 6 months, as he had no intention of returning to the United States until the end of the year. Wallace, who had just woken up at the start of the livestream, would return to bed during the livestream. Lying in bed, he said that he hadn't been to the gym in quite some time and had not had sex in the same amount of time. After previously promising to stop fundraising for travel money, Wallace highlighted his Cash App link in his side chat and said that while he wasn't actively fundraising, people could donate if they wanted to, and all proceeds would go to his next trip. Wallace also announced that he would be fundraising for trips to Thailand, the Philippines, or Kenya, as he could not afford to pay for those trips on his own. He would later share that his Instagram and Facebook accounts had been terminated, and Instagram had never replied to his attempts to appeal his ban. How this will impact his future interactions with women is unclear, as Wallace is famous for using the pickup line, "You got Insta? You got WhatsApp?" as his main attempt to attract women. Updating his employment status, Wallace said that he briefly had a job, but that it didn't work out. He did not say how he'd finance his extended trip to Colombia, though he announced that one-way tickets to the country were cheap. Wallace revisited his travel trip of booking 2 Airbnbs, or an Airbnb and a hotel, as he was staying in Colombia. He again explained that his belongings would be stored at his main hotel, or Airbnb, and that the second, lower-quality Airbnb would be used for dates. Remaining paranoid about being drugged while overseas, Wallace said that any woman with a sexual photo on a dating app was out to drug and rob men. Wallace did not address the loans that he had previously taken from his followers, that he promised a 200% return on investment before ending the livestream. When directly asked about the loans, Wallace refused to answer and quickly changed the subject. This is a developing news story. Jose Chille DeCastro's Thursday and Friday live streams had fire, brimstone, anti-police videos, threats of implied violence, a phone call to the Ironton, Ohio Police Department, and a growing sense that DeCastro is stuck in a time warp as he repeated his standard catchphrases and accusations for 2 straight days. DeCastro, after live streaming an incomprehensible teaching session in support of his board game on Thursday, would take a break and live stream again a few minutes after wrapping up the session. Neither that live stream nor his more animated Friday session offered any new information on his Constitution headquarters board game, other than it was still something in his wheelhouse. No updates were made to his attempts to find $150,000 to finance the first print run of the game. No updates were made to his planned Kickstarter campaign, and those who had previously pre-ordered the game were still not told if he'd honor those pre-orders. The diminutive YouTuber's lack of information about his board game product, as expected, resulted in no new pre-sales recorded for the game on his product website. His product page's sales counter continued to be stuck at 9,998 items left in stock, with a single presale recorded since he relaunched the product presale at a higher price point. Likewise, DeCastro provided no new updates on his Get Out of Jail service, which was supposed to launch last week. The service has been described as a bail bondsman service of sorts for First Amendment auditors. DeCastro has personally stated that the service will post bond for any First Amendment auditor using his service when they have been arrested within the United States. Details of funding of the project have been few and far between since he announced the service. DeCastro, describing himself as being in financial peril over the past few months, would presumably need significant financial investments in the business for it to work as advertised. DeCastro's non-educational streams instead focused on his claim that 90% of cops are douchebags, and featured a sweaty DeCastro speaking over videos featuring police violence. Again, claiming that most future police officers are social outcasts, he said that he did not believe that his fans should actively shoot police unless we go into revolution. In an unsubstantiated claim on Friday, DeCastro said that large numbers of American police officers have been sent to Israel to be trained by the Israeli police force how to conduct themselves as police officers. He offered no proof of this, but expounded on the claim for a few minutes before changing the subject. He did not revisit his previous claims that the Israeli Secret Service was holding convicted predator Jeffrey Epstein after faking Epstein's death. Strangely, DeCastro also took time on Friday to speak out on efforts by Arizona to place limits on legislative immunity, which allows members of the state legislature to avoid punishment for traffic and other crimes committed while the legislature was in session. DeCastro, despite playing a video featuring a state legislator being released from a traffic stop during a legislative session because of the law, said that the removal of the law would lead to abuse by police. He then implied that his opposition was based on his view that the party that held the majority in the state legislature could then use traffic stops to arrest the opposition party members in an act of oppression. DeCastro said he would oppose any changes to the existing law despite living outside of the state of Arizona. DeCastro, who complained that he had been sidelined by PTSD and brain fog related to his time in a Nevada jail cell last year, did not go live again on Saturday. He is expected to live stream again on Sunday. We need your help. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, feeding the cats, defending ourselves from lawsuit threats, and writing news stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, you can do so via a donation to our PayPal, Cash App, or GoFundMe accounts. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our videos from beginning to end, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.